Here to talk about integrating social media in our business. Just a few reminders for us in the Middle East. The net spend in social media and advertising in the Middle East today is less than 1% of the global spend. Less than 1%. In the last 3 years, the interactive community has grown by 700%. 700%. I just want you to think about this before I share with you what's happening on the net. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of these numbers thrown at you. You'll probably get more of them, so I squeeze them into a minute, just 1 minute of what happens on the internet. It's a busy space, isn't it? Whilst we talk about what's going on, I'd like to share with you the fact that a lot of people I talk to in the region, especially clients, seem to have not the same understanding of social media. They seem to think what we're talking about is another world. Well, it's, I think, time that we bring all these people through you and to all our community into what social media world is and how we integrate it. So I'll spend a few minutes trying to share with you on how best we can do it and hope that becomes part of the learning. Social media is big, we know that, but that's old news. Okay. What's breaking news, in my view, is that social media is yet another tool. Okay. It's a channel that we all use, but the only thing is it has a big difference. And we'll talk about this difference in a minute. I hear a lot of rumblings in the conference rooms and corridors of our clients saying that we must have a Facebook page. What are we going to do on that Facebook page? Oh, we must have a new Twitter plan. Okay, well, what's the strategy for that Twitter plan? Oh, and the new hottest thing is the Pinterest. So you hear all that, but there isn't really thinking behind it. And most of these questions really are wrong questions. What is the right question then? I mean, it's like saying, let's start doing all our cooking in a microwave because we've got one now. Primarily, the way I see it is for us, for business people, primarily they're business tools. And we're not going to just start using all of these tools just because they're there. So how do we ask the right questions? What are the right questions? Well, for us to ask the right questions, we have to first understand what these tools are, what they can do for our brands, what they can do for our businesses, and why should you use specific tools. So first the understanding, and then the questions. The paradox is that social media is perceived to be an end, but in reality, it's just a means to an end. We heard a lot about content and content creation by consumers and by clients. But that is part of the story. You know, the real story is, in majority of the time, the content remains the same. It just moves from the press to TV, and from TV to internet to mobile. Okay. And there are many ends. You can achieve many objectives, and you can do that in many ways. So it's a busy, but also a slightly confusing world there if you don't understand it. The buzzword, in my view, or the key word in social media is amplification. It can amplify anything that you do many, many times and much, much faster. The speed and the amplification is just amazing. And I have a simple thinking of it, and that is an organization can use it by leveraging the power of its people. If you've got 500 people working and they have a network of 500 each, that's your immediate amplification. Can you imagine if you can just have powerful content that can move 1 or 2 folds away? You're immediately into millions. So that's the power of the social media. We can achieve a number of goals for our businesses. But the main goals that I've thought of are we can grow our businesses, we can start customer service, we can launch new products, and I'll share some examples with you, and we can have continuous product development and much, much more. In some of the samples that or case histories that I've chosen, I think you'll provide, some of them are old, but some of them are fresh. The old ones are my favorite ones, and I couldn't help bringing them to you. The first one is from Blendtec.
Will it blend? That is the question. Hey, I want to introduce you to our new Will It Blend app. And it's free. It's really cool. You can do a try this at home or a don't try this at home. My favorite is hang with Tom. Pick your favorite picture. Pick which one of me you want to be with. You can size it. Boy, that'll make a great Christmas card. I love the new iPhone 4S Siri technology so much that I built it into the Blendtec Total Blender. Watch this. Total Blender, blend my new iPhone.
Blending iPhone.
Would you like to not blend the iPhone instead?
Activating the smoothie button.
You are making a terrible error.
Blend it now.
Please try
Woo! Siri smoke. Don't breathe this. So, iPhone, what do you have to say about that?
Ha 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 ha.
With due apologies to Steve Jobs, his business grew faster than Apple and anything else that I've seen. So I wanted to bring this to you because of the results this campaign achieved. It's a viral campaign, ran it for 4 years, and the business has grown 700% in the last 4 years. Here's the next one. Enhance your customer service.
Best Buy has always been the undisputed tech expert, but their key asset, the knowledge of the Blue Shirts and Geek Squad agents, was confined to their stores. So if people never came in, how would they ever know what they were missing? So Best Buy decided to launch a tool that could extend the knowledge of their geeks and Blue Shirts beyond their walls and out into the digital space. Meet the 12th Force, a modern, digitized volunteer army of Best Buy employees available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on Twitter. And not to push products or increase sales, but to provide twelp, a fancy new term for expert technical help in tweet form. If you have a question, simply tweet @12force and get an answer fast. In fact, for every question tweeted, over 2,000 Blue Shirts are racing to give the fastest and bestest answer. And you got answers from real Best Buy employees, not from some call center an ocean away. And no questions are out of bounds. No questions are too ridiculous. No questions are ignored. Plus, the collective power of 12th Force is always watching for tech issue tweets and can quickly lend a hand, even without anyone asking. Since the launch, 12 Force has answered thousands and thousands of tweets, landed Best Buy in the top 25 social brands of 2009, and helped drive overall customer complaints down by nearly 20% in the first year alone. But most importantly, 12 Force paved the way for a whole new approach to customer service. Thanks for watching.
Can you imagine a company that if you complain on a product that they've served, you get 5 or 6 responses in the next 30 seconds? Next 30 seconds. So it's amazing what you can do with Twitter. Speed, amazing speed, and it helps. The next one is a case history from our London office, our launch of Monopoly. Enjoy.
I'm actually a playing piece in the online Monopoly game. I'm the racing car.
Changed with the all-new Monopoly Year and Now limited edition, and play it live at monopolylive.com.
And now, thanks to the internet, there's a new twist that brings a bit of reality back into virtual reality. MonopolyLive.com is the name of the site.
Years down, and I still think it's probably the most creative, imaginative product launch that I've seen. Taking you on from the next one, and that probably is the last one in terms of case histories, is new product development. And I think Starbucks has done a wonderful job in engaging with their consumers. My Starbucks idea, a web page that is very popular across the globe, is in its 4th year. It has created for Starbucks more than 100,000 new business ideas, and at least 100 of them or more are now being executed in 2011. And I think the quote from one of the Starbucks executives saying that we used to spend hundreds of millions of dollars advertising when we had to launch a new product, now we have millions of fans, makes life easier. Says simply, you get a popular website, you get engaging consumer, you save money. All of the above are important business goals. and social media, as you've seen, has played a vital role in achieving them. But what drives social media? I think dialogue drives it, but dialogue in a different way. And here's a very simple but very interesting Microsoft ad that I think tells the story in terms of how we are engaging or not engaging.
Hey there. Long time no see. Looking good.
Yeah. Let's just keep this simple. I want a divorce.
What now?
I think you heard me just fine.
Come on. This is me. What's wrong?
We don't talk anymore.
I just put down a mill on a TV commercial just to talk to you.
Exactly. You do all the talking. I never get a chance.
Talk on our website, can't you?
Sure. If I want to say, order this product.
See?
It's not exactly a dialogue.
What about the print campaign, You can't tell me you missed the billboard in Times Square. That was like a 200-foot tall declaration of love.
You're saying you love me, but you're not behaving like you love me. It's not genuine.
I don't know. The agency said I was genuinely being funny. Genuinely being charming. They said you would love everything I did.
Would you keep your voice down? You're not doing a radio commercial. Look, whether you're funny or not, it's just, I've changed. And you haven't. I mean, we don't even hang out in the same places anymore. You're not even listening, are you?
Coupons. You want coupons, don't you? Look, come by the store. I got 2 words for you. Loyalty, reduction. Am I right? That was it, wasn't it? Let's just hug.
If you knew me, you'd know I don't care about that.
Know you? Sweetheart, I know everything about you. You're 28 to 34. Your online interests include music, movies, and laser hair removal. You have a modest but dependable disposable income. Am I the only one not getting the problem here?
I'm out of here.
Oh, come on. Don't be like that. Look, I'll tell you what. Come back here tomorrow. I'll give you the chance to win a Bahamas vacation. There's a small chance, minuscule, but technically still a chance.
How many of you relate with that? Interesting. I think if I was to put some of my clients in that advertiser's position, it would work very well. But I also get fired. But here's the real story. The empowerment of individuals, people around us, is unprecedented. And it grows every day, gets bigger and bigger. It actually is getting out of control. So who's wanting to control it? Leave it. Enjoy it. People power, it's there to stay. How many of you know Rebecca Black? Hands up. A 14-year-old girl who did a song on the net, 160 million views, and it's amazing. If those of you who've heard the lyrics, probably have a laugh. Okay. And then we have the Connie story, the movement which has got the fastest 100 million reach. So you can, and you will, I'm sure, see a lot of people, young heroes, doing that day in, day out. But you have to watch, and you have to listen. And that's one of the things that you have to do on the net. But the way we actually sell our stories and the way we actually talk to our consumers has changed. It's not one-sided. You actually end up playing like a lover, wooing them at every step of the way. So how do we integrate social media into our business? It's a new way of doing things. It requires more time from us and from our clients. It requires more investment, and it requires a totally different set of skills. The set of skills that we are still struggling to find in the region. Now, I'll take you through a bit of a boring but interesting way of approach. Got to have some sense and some systems in place. I think the start is to let our clients and our partners know that we must have, as we do in other places, very clear and single-minded objectives of what we want to achieve and KPIs for those for measurement. And there are so many ways to measure that, so I'll talk a little bit about that. And I'll talk about how we set up tactics for our campaigns, for our business objectives, and a brief view of implementation. I think one of the things that we always do is set objectives and KPIs in a rush. I think it's important to evaluate, because what you can measure does not mean is important to you. So let's try and single-mindedly understand that the results we want from interactive campaigns, or from digital campaigns, or from social media campaigns specifically, are ones that we really want to measure, and we have set standards for those. One of the objectives that's very common that we hear is we want to acquire new customers. Well, how are you going to acquire new customers? Obviously, the way to do that is to increase reach. And the KPI for that could be to have more fans, which could mean more customers. Most people sort of say, well, it's not true. But we've done research that actually says if you actually move from 100,000 fan base to a million fan, or from 10,000 fan base to 100,000 fan base, it has a direct impact on your sales. So if somebody tells you that's not true, I've got numbers to prove it. There are many ways of setting up these objectives and KPIs. But also, I think the important thing is to understand that tactics need to be very clear in our minds on how we achieve them. First of the three main ways of areas of strategic thinking. One is content creation strategy. Who is the content for? What is the relevant area in terms of content? What is the platform that we're going to use? How does it link to the brand strategy? So you need to go back to the origins of that brand and relate to that. Similarly, you need to understand the content marketing strategy. Which owned share partners do we use to push our content? What paid media are we going to use to drive the traffic to our content, and so forth. So another key area is defining the tactics in a very clear way. Well, let's talk about the implementation. Making it happen within an organization and getting buy-in from the senior management, like I said, is not the easiest thing. It requires to have to go beyond the process and focus on objectives and targets and results. And most importantly, if you can clarify and make the clients understand that the results that you achieve through social media marketing is very different from that of tradition, and that understanding can bring forward what you need to do in this particular arena. Implementation is another key thing that most of us forget. We must start from a clear structure, understanding the business, listing the functions down and who's going to do what, who's got the responsibility, defining the policies and guidelines for the net social strategies is also important. And most importantly, train the people within the agencies, within the partners, and within the client's end is another key area. You don't have trained people, you have confusion. In sum, the goal, in my view, of social media is to get people talking positively about you. Soon enough, they'll be your customers, they'll be your employers, they'll be your partners, or whoever you want them to be. I think social media is about people. It's about people connecting with each other. It's about making friendships, sharing, and more. Every day I go on the net, I discover something new. But I want to share with you an insight. Most of us, in fact, 7 out of 10 people who go on the net go for one simple reason: sharing friends, making friends, finding love. And here's a new way. I thought I'd leave this insight with you. A new way. A young gentleman out of the US decided to propose to his girlfriend. Enjoy. He set this up in a cinema house as a trailer. There she is.
A love story so true, it couldn't have been written.
I know how much she means to you. I know how much you love her. I know she is your heart.
There comes a time when every father lets his little girl go.
I just want you to know that I love her too, and I am by no means trying to steal her away from you.
To another man that loves her as much as he does.
I want to spend the rest of my life with her. She is my heart, my friend, my everything.
It's a story about two people who find true love right around the corner.
She is nothing like any woman I've ever met before, and everything I've always wanted and more.
That teaches us everyone out there does have a soulmate.
I want you to know that I'll protect her. I will honor and respect her and treat her the way she deserves to be treated.
And that every true love story isn't in the movies.
I didn't even know what real love is, but she is showing me and teaching me every day. It might be old-fashioned, it may not even be necessary, but it's important to me, and I know it's important to your daughter that I do this as well. I'd like to have your blessing, sir. May I have your daughter's hand in marriage?
You have my permission for a hand in marriage. I would love to have you as a son-in-law.
Coming this winter from Universal Studios, making the movies jealous.
What are you waiting for?
Since our second date, I've always said that we were going to be making the movies jealous. You mean everything to me, and I meant that. Will you give me the honor, and will you marry me? Bravo.
Thank you. In our world, consumer is everything. He's the creator, he's the consumer. He likes you, he dislikes you. You better be on the better side of him. Thanks very much. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Mr. Najam, for a very interesting presentation. I can see during the presentation, one gentleman there was not very convinced on about the KPIs,
right,
and talking about how more fans will affect your bottom line. So I want to address this just right before I throw it back at you, because disclosure, we work with measuring and evaluating communication, and this is something that many people often debate about, whether this actually does impact your bottom line or your sales or not. And the answer is, it does, but it depends. And it depends, of course. Not all your 100,000 fan base are customers, so you need to know what you're looking at. But I'll let you address that and how you manage your clients' expectations when it comes to these figures.
I think the important thing to understand is where you're starting from. Where's your base? If you have 100,000 people who like you or your fans, and you have 50,000 consumers, the growth will not be in the same ratio. I can bet you that. So it's understanding what your base is and what your expectations are. And also making sure that your partners have a reasonable expectation in terms of deliveries. I think what more and more happens is that you expect clients and customers to sort of go back and spend $10 million on traditional advertising, and they give you $50,000 to do the job of $20 million. I think that's what's unfair about it. Otherwise, I'm fine. I think the thing is that if you are growing your fan base from 100,000 to 1 million, the impact of the growth of the fan base is not going to be reflected in the same level on your sales, but there is going to be an impact. And also depends on what you are delivering, the content and the messages you're delivering to your fan base. If you're not selling to them, obviously, they're not going to buy.
Any questions from the audience? By the way, back.
Hi, how big is the problem of accurately measuring social media consumption, A? And how do you go about convincing clients, especially in this region, where there is a lot of buzz around social media, but the reality is that it's very nascent and it's still growing?
Okay. Every media buying company or every media specialist company that actually purchases content or time on social media has a number of tools to measure. In fact, the most measurable media today is social media. I think what tools you use is depending on what is available to the organization. There are plenty of tools available. I think if you want to share or understand what tools are available and how they work, I can introduce you to one of our the right person. But yes, the measurable quantum of this is very much there, and it's like I said earlier. It's the definitive measurement is done through a number of tools, and you can get a very reasonable figure.
Thank you. Allow me to just to give a little background story about measurability, and you talk about measuring things, and it is true that you can very well measure exactly what you want to measure when it comes to social media and everything online in general. The tools that are available for you to actually find statistics and answers to your questions are there. The problem is the question. And I remember at a conference, an app developer was bitterly complaining that although he's had almost 1 million downloads over a period of 3 weeks, in 4 months, his monetization did not even cross $10. And the question he's asking himself is, how many downloads did I get, not how many users are actively using my application. And so the same trap a lot of people working in the social media space fall into, where they ask the wrong question. While the tools to measure are available, it seems like the questions we're asking are the wrong questions. So we know how many people hit that page or how many people viewed it, but the question is, who are they exactly? I'll let you follow up to that.
To follow up on that, the tools is not only to measure how much you acquired new fans, it's to see your share of voice versus other competitors, is to see your positive feedback in comparison to negative feedback about your brand. So it's going beyond only numbers. It's not only about counting fans or counting followers. It's about how they are engaging with you positively, negatively, and what's your share out of other brands in the same industry.
What will I do without you?
I just want to add on that. I think it's all this buzz about social media and its lack of measurability, let's say, and people not really believing in spending behind social media. Can anybody tell me? I'm a client, by the way.
Yes.
How can we measure the sales based on a TV campaign? Nobody can say. I mean, I really don't understand what is the difference then. So people are really angry about social media and saying, you know, it might not be delivering as much sales as we might imagine, while you spend 20 times bigger on TV, and I bet anybody to give me an accurate ROI model that tells me how much sales I achieved from one TV burst or campaign. So
Thank you
I
very
see
much.
no difference, to be honest.
Thank you. Yeah, agree.
Good question. Please.
It wasn't a question, it's reaffirming what I'm saying.
Well,
I think that I agree with you that once there is research on TV, there is no data that actually sort of says if you spend $1 million in a month on a TV station, it will have an immediate impact of X% on your sales. What you can measure, again, is the viewership, and go deeper in that viewership as how frequently that viewership happened, and whether that viewership was a positive. I mean, in developed and more progressive researches, you can actually go into whether that viewership was positive or negative. That's the limit you can go. But whether that viewership on TV converted an individual into sales or not is something that you can't measure. Okay? And I think that's the difference between some of the measurement that you can do on social media. You can actually measure, in some cases, that how the results are happening. And if somebody wants to kind of have a discussion, then you can.
Especially now, we are talking about a lot about online sales and e-commerce, so you can easily find if the lead, the actual action that happened through the links or content you spread it over your social media, like referral keys and etc., or not. That's the difference that you're talking about. Yes. Thank you.
Yes, thanks.
Sorry. Any questions? Yes. Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, hi.
One question is that mentioning e-commerce, we just launched our e-commerce website, and we link, as everyone was saying, Facebook and Twitter directly if we're having any conversions. However, everyone thinks that Facebook should drive sales. However, convincing managers that it's about engaging, customer service, and really informing our customers. How do we convince the senior management that if you don't see on Google Analytics conversions just happen from Facebook, that it's not an effective tool?
No, I'm going to go back right to the beginning of the presentation. The channels are, the social media channels are really channels. They're not the end, they're means. So what you put on your Facebook is the key. The content and how you sell. It's a different way of selling. If you have a one-sided engagement, then it's going to be very hard for you to convert people who come into customers. But get them engaged, get them to interact with you, and then you start to build a rapport. The relationship develops. It's about that lady. She's totally gone. There's no relationship anymore. So start building the relationship, and the business will develop. And I can give you some examples of successful web sellers, and one of them is a company called Bexley. I don't know how many know of that organization. It's a France-based interactive selling company, and they were good at selling shoes, great shoes. And then they said, well, we'll add accessories to that. And they started putting some accessories, and before you know, they got into socks, and before you know, they got into T-shirts and shirts. And now, if you go on that website, it's a gentleman's place. You can go and buy anything that you would want other than a suit. So if you have the right level of engagement, the customer will drive the business. Like I said, you've lost control. The consumer is in charge. And if you give the customer what he wants, he'll keep coming back to you for more. And he'll tell you what he wants. And you have to deliver. Okay? You cannot segment yourself in the way you did in the past, especially on the net. You've got to deliver what the customer wants, or else get out of business.
Thank you. Yeah, and just real quick, just to answer your question about management not understanding this, one of the things that some companies do is they have their own little pet project that they manage themselves internally before having some results, some micro results, to push forward to management to say, yes, look at this can scale. Question.
Hi, I just have a comment and a question as well. The comment is regarding the point the gentleman said, the mobile applications downloads and the trap that we always fail. I think it's also happening on the Facebook when people also feel that the number of fans also give some measurement, while sometimes fans is not also an indication, because if there is no interactivity between the Facebook page and users, there will not be loyalty and engagement with fans. So a number of fans, if there is no activities on the page, is not also an indication about the sales and other stuff with the consumers. The question is, as you stand on the agency side, I would like you to shed some lights on how basically the industry is evolving and progressing towards the social media, revolution on the client side. Regarding finding talents and strategies and these things in the region specifically.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think the comment that you made earlier, I agree with you. I said earlier, you can have a Facebook page and you can have a company come in and sort of say, we want to bring some fans, and before you know, in 2 weeks, you'll have 10,000 fans. That's not the measurement. Actually, the thing is, like I said earlier, it is what you do with that Facebook page, okay? How you engage. And you'll very quickly realize that if you are trying to engage your fans in things that they want to do and you're not getting the reaction, there is something wrong with that 10,000 number. You know, I believe me, I've been questioned on this a lot. And I've got clients who are saying, I have 450,000 fans. I'm not able to sell. I said, you probably have 45 fans and the rest are jokers. There is a lot of that going on. Because if you are engaging your consumer in the way that he wants to be engaged, that's the key thing. In the way that he wants to be engaged, then things should happen. You know, you should have movement, you should have feedback, you should have discussion. But if there is no discussion, if there is no feedback, then you're not engaging the consumer. So what are the fans doing? They're not really your fans, it's just a number. Do you agree with that? Okay, fine. So that's what it is. The second question is, I think we're all the digital agencies here and the traditional agencies who are kind of blending both digital and traditional together, are facing a dilemma. The dilemma is, do we bring the talent from outside, okay, and get people into a market where the knowledge base is very limited? By and large, you've seen that kind of community has very low patience for people at the client end. It's my personal experience. I've flown a lot of people in from all over the world in the digital space. They come in, and before you know, they're on their way out. I think it's best to train indigenous, and I think it's best to develop the talent that we have into the digital space. It's everybody's business. The first person, I'm from the traditional industry. The first person who needs to understand digital is me, and then the second layer and the third layer and the fourth layer. So it starts from, and then work downwards. And I think, yes, you can have people in the agency and at the client's end who interact and train, and so we have a lot of people who come in and train and develop our talent. But I'm all for developing indigenous talent and those who are with you already. Nothing like people you know.
I think we're running out of time, but I'll take one more question from the gentleman here.
Assalamu alaikum, Mr. Najam. Quick question for you.
Sure.
We're talking about products.
Yes.
What if your product was a human, was a person? Would you actually do the same? Would you carry on the same method?
I think if your product was a humor, whether your product was a TV station, whether your product was a TV program, everything has to go through the basic philosophy. At the bed of everything digital or non-digital is an idea, okay? And that idea has to be communicated through XYZ channels, whether it's a traditional channel or a social media channel. It's only the way you do it, and how you do it, and how you engage. Because on a TV station, you've got established viewers. If there's forced view, they watch NBC, so they will sit down and watch NBC, and if you have a half an hour program, even if it's not so good, you'll still get some viewership. Here, the consumer is flipping. You know, he's moving. At any given time, he's got 15 pages open, and he's flipping from one place to another. To grab his interest, you've got to be good, and you've got to understand the consumer. And you can't go after all the consumers. Pick yours. Pick yours, all right? Always pick your own. Thanks.
Very much, Mr. Najam. Appreciate it.